researching.
Sorry, I forgot to hit record.
I got it.
Yeah, we're good.
So, I kept on that track of research and researching hiring preferences and processes and fields. And that's really fundamental in resume preparation because you have to know it before you can write about it. So, as Professor Moroz mentioned, I've been doing it for a long time. I've written resumes for nearly all fields, all levels, from entry level to executive level, across the country. So I've been kind of knee deep in it for a long time. And over the last 30 years, we've seen a lot of changes. Whenever there is a change in the economy, we see a change in hiring processes, and it affects how we write and how we work. So back in 08, we saw a big, the economy took a big hit. Even locally, we see things, and it affects. We're a big IBM country where I am in Poughkeepsie, and it does affect hiring, whether it's the talent pool or whether it's the way that they bring them in. And in the last 15 years, what we've noticed is ATS, which which Brian mentioned in the beginning. It's called applicant tracking software. And what that does is, because as resumes come in, the computers or the systems rather screen those, and then they rank them and they bring them in. So if you look at a job lead, you'll see qualifications, what they want, what they require versus what they prefer. That's what I look at very closely, because that helps bring your resume to the front. The good news is when we started seeing this 15 years ago or so, it was really tough to get through those systems. Those systems couldn't really read bold or italics or any of those things, anything underlined, only Times New Roman or those common system fonts. But they've improved over the years. And there's good news on the horizon because they've gotten even better. So for creatives, this is especially important for you. And as Brian mentioned, it really is important for creatives to have the two resumes. One thing, you have an extra level of requirements when you apply for a job, and that is to include your online. You're building an online portfolio, I'm guessing, right, of some sort of your work. So they allow you, when you apply on a job board, they allow you to put that URL in there. So that's good. So you have that. So I always suggest including on your website or however you have your personal work, that you have your resume that does reflect who you are, your creativity, your personality, whatever that may be, because that's just, a human will be looking at that. So you put that there, and then have it also that you can bring to an interview as well. But when you are applying on a job board or to a company directly, and you have to upload your resume, it is good to have one that is system friendly. And we're going to go through that today. So let's go. Let's see here. First, I think it's important to talk about resume writing, job search development, the hows and the whys. The resume is critical. It's critical in introducing who you are and what you have to offer. And for creatives, you want to be able to express your talents, your ideas, and your work, and that's where those websites that you or your URLs are going to come in handy, where you have your personal portfolio. The role of the resume, it serves as a screening device initially, tracking software. And later, after you get that interview, it's going to structure the interview, it reminds the interviewer of the candidate, and it justifies the hiring decision to others. If somebody circulates your resume for you on your behalf, that's where it's justifying it to them. They're able to show this is why this person should be granted an interview and an invitation in. And that's what you have to remember, that the resume gets you the invitation in. Format and content. So format matters, but content matters more. So we're talking about formatting that resume, but I heard you, Brian, in the beginning say you have an assignment attached to this, that you want them to start thinking about what they're going to include in their resume.
Correct.
That's where that research comes in, and that's of really kind of taking inventory of your skills. You want to be thinking about things that you've done, and then thinking about that what's next. What jobs do you think you're going to go for? And that's really not only what you put in there, but how you present it, and how you explain it. So, the formatting is a strategy to highlight the information for the readers also, because once that resume gets through tracking software, they give you the invitation in, the human gets it, and the human wants to go through it quickly. They scan them very fast. So there's different ways. If you've got a lot of text on there, and you guys are creative, so you know about laying out information, having a certain amount of white space in there, left to right, what fonts you're using so that they can see it easily. It holds a bold or something like that. Just what I said, capturing attention, visually standing out. One thing about the tracking software, I know you're tempted to use fancy fonts. It's always best to use common system fonts. You have to remember, people are looking at these on different platforms, whether it's Mac or PC. They're looking at them in different versions of Windows, so that they could be seen differently. And if that common system font isn't there, Word will change it. Which brings me to one thing. I know I might be jumping ahead. Build your resume in Word.
She's talking about the ATX part of it. Standard fonts.
Yeah, common system fonts. And I know it stinks because you really want to use something really great. It's just safer with that one that you're going to upload or that you're going to have go through a company's website job link to have something that is the all systems can read easily. You don't want it to substitute on you. The other thing that is important and is probably tempting is to use something other than Word to build your resume. And again, the safest thing to do is use Word to save it as a PDF. And you probably all know PDF is the great equalizer. It really takes it, the format holds. So build in Word and then save in PDF, and then for your other resume, you can do whatever you want. Focus. Let's just talk about that a little bit more, because I've got the formatting, content, and then the focus. And that goes back to when a client calls me and asks for a resume, the first thing I ask them is, what's next? What kind of job are you going for? What do you think you might want to do? And sometimes they don't know, and it's wide open for you. You're new grads. But something's going to be driving your search. What's important in your search or in your career? Are you going to stay in the area, or are you going to open it up to the whole country? And that does matter. So say it doesn't matter where I go. I really want to be a creative assistant for a music company, something along those lines. It doesn't matter where it is. So then you can be very focused on that search. And so you look at job leads that reflect that, and then that will drive your content. You'll be able to see, you highlight the keywords, you see where you match up, and that's what goes into that resume, and that's where content and focus come together, and you have it formatted properly, and you've got a really powerful resume. You have to remember, and I say this to people all the time, it's about you, but it's for somebody else. And that's what I tell people all the time. I'm writing for that reader, so I don't want to annoy them. Can't test their patience, so then there's formatting right there. And it has to be relevant. So look at, go deep into what you've done, and pull out things that are relevant to what you're looking for. And you see the strongest resume is one that fits the job description. Clarifying your focus, including stories, because as we were saying, that when you go for that interview, anything on that resume is fair game. So you want to have stories attached to it. So you want to always review that and think about when they say, oh, tell me about this. Tell me about when you worked at McDonald's and you were the crew chief. What was that like? So have some stories that are connected to that show whether it's leadership or you were designated to orient new people, things like that, because you all have them in some way. Just you don't think about it. And I'm not saying human nature, we tend to, we're harder on ourselves than others. We just think if we can do it, everybody can do it. And that's not the case. We all have talents and skills that we've developed through experiences. Let's see. Okay, so we talked about the tracking systems in the beginning. The tracking software, it analyzes the content into categories and scans it, and it's looking for those specific keywords. Again, going to those job leads. And let's see if I can pull a job lead up and just show you. This is one that I had looked at, shared with the group a couple of years ago. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Here's a sample of a job lead, okay? Actually, digital marketing operations for Warner Music. See how this is what I do when I'm working on a client's resume. I go and I research what field they're looking at, what the job title they're looking at. And then I go and I highlight. So I highlight what I need to look at. What does this company want?
Let me interrupt you for a second. Where did this come from?
Indeed.
Indeed.
Probably Indeed. So I always go right to the bottom of any job lead. If a client's asking me, if they applied for something, or if they have a question, do you think I should apply for this? I go right to the qualifications. So this is obviously a new grad that they're looking for, an entry-level role. So a lot of times, I don't know if you guys have talked about soft skills. Soft skills are right here. It's really your work ethic. Hard skills are your creative, whether it's your technical, the softwares, things like that. That's more of a harder skill. But soft skills are your work ethic and who you are, and that's what you have. As new grads, typically that's what you have. So you have to show that. They see here in this one, they're looking for TikTok, Facebook. So you want to make sure that those are listed on that resume. That drives your content right there. Let's see what this one is. Digital campaign assistant. And those are the things that you're going to be looking for. Anything that says assistant, because you're a new grad. This is a good example. If you notice here, organize and prioritize. This must be a company who is global. There are in Europe or something.
Based on
it's digital marketing. So you want to have that right up front and center. You want to have the use the word innovative. Workload organization. Those are the team projects. You want to have those terms in your resume.
And the importance of having those terms in the resume is because if it goes through an ATS, those are the words that get picked up.
Those are that it is programmed to look for them. All right, let's see if I can share something else with you.
So what is that? I'm going to interrupt you, Chris. Sorry. So what does that say about your resumes when you're doing them? Once you do it once, it doesn't mean it's done. You're constantly massaging,
Right.
it, changing it based on each individual job you apply for.
Or not necessarily, you look at it, each individual one, but you could have, if you have a couple different directions that you want to go, then you might have two different resumes. One with one, here's a recent college, or no, this is a current college student who is looking for an internship. She's in school. Obviously, everything is fictionalized and blocked out. So she's looking for an internship. So what do we have up there? Soft skills. You can see this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So communications, relationship building, time management, team projects, problem solving. Seems general. Unfortunately, that's what they're, when you look at those job leads, that's for entry level, that's what they have, and that's what we have to offer here up at the top. She's a researcher. So we've got the technology right there at the top and what she has. And then if you look in her summary section, it talks about, again, her work ethic, weaving that in, and also what the program of study is concentrated in. We've got public health, population health, and healthcare system. She does well in school, so we bring it up. So the summary, everything down below the summary supports what the summary says. Peer leadership, so you're showing some team judgment, leadership, data. You see all those keywords, and then because she's young, we have plenty of space, so we just fill it with some more keywords. But the keywords aren't random; they're. So what I do is she's got these research projects and community work, which I blocked out because it's hers. So I just pulled what she has. She's got some fundraising experience. She coordinated projects, outreach. Here's her school, which again is actually not her school. But we've got academic highlights, we've got sorority, all her activities in her sorority. And then she didn't work at Buffalo Wild Wings, but showing that through school, she's worked. And that says something about who you are without having to say it. So that is somebody she's probably in her second or third year of college right now. So she's looking for an internship. Let me see. All right. Where'd I go? Does anybody have any questions so far?
Yeah, I think you were one slide back giving an overview of what the tracking system is.
Oh, okay. So Trax is 98%. That's the last number I have of Fortune 500 companies use it. A lot of even smaller companies are using them now. 75% of applications are rejected before it even gets to a human. The issue that we have, even though technology has improved so much, a lot of companies are still using the older ATS. So we always play it safe and avoid the fancy fonts. And I mean, I do the underline, I do that because most of them can get through that. But you just have to be careful with getting too creative, unfortunately, with when you're applying online. And here it is, too much fancy formatting. When they go through the system, they get kicked. Because of that content. That's what gets picked up. Visuals, they can't read visuals, but it doesn't mean you can't have them in there, because so if you have a logo, so a few years ago I would have said don't put a logo, don't have a giant one to take up space. Remember, you have a certain amount of space on there, but you do want to convey your creativity in some way. So you have some subtle ways that you can still do that, but don't let the content is still more important. But when a human gets to it, maybe they would appreciate it. The one thing, let me see if that's next. Tables, templates. This is really critical. Death blow to a resume. Do not use a template. You know those boxes that you'll see, and they expand. You can put the text in. They don't read them. It comes up blank. So don't put the tables, don't put those text boxes, or use a template. It's not going to help you. You can use a visual that you build and you put up there somehow. Don't put your text in a box. Headers or footers, don't put those in there. And hyperlinks, you can put those next to, what it's better, instead of the hyperlink, because it won't read it, copy the URL and put it next to it. So say you want, you publish something. So you speak about it and you put it in there, and then next to it, you can put a URL there, so that they can click on it. You can make it live, just like your email. Have your email. What I do is put the email up at the top of the resume, and it comes up as a I don't know what you guys call it, hot button, where it turns blue and you can click on it. You can still do that, but I always just make it black just to have it look like the rest of the text in the resume.
I'm sorry. Is it okay if you could go back to like the the last ATS slide?
This one?
Yeah, I just wanted to screenshot it. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. We already talked about the fonts. Headers and footers, don't put the headers and footers in there either. The same idea.
And when you say boxes, you're talking about making a big black box with white text.
Yeah.
Right? She's not talking about a standard text where you just, make a text box, is what we call it in Illustrator and Adobe.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to make sure they weren't confused by.
Yeah, and again, don't use Illustrator to build your resume. Use Word, and then save it as a PDF. Always send the PDF.
And again, this is the ATS one. Yes, Chaden has a question. Google Docs.
I haven't. I'd always just play it safe. I like Google. I mean, it shifts over. I don't know enough about Google Docs, and I haven't seen anything about that. Everything I see, Word is what. And sometimes a recruiter will contact you if they happen to find you, and they'll always want you to send the Word document, because they like to change them too. So Word is kind of the mainstream system or application. I would stick with that software.
Okay, so I have a question.
Uh-huh.
You had said use Microsoft Word, okay? But you also say to save it as a PDF. So what are we submitting?
Yeah.
The Microsoft Word or the PDF?
You're saving the Word, you're going to create it in Word and then save it as a PDF. And that's the PDF is the one that you use to send.
So how does the ATS still have issues because a PDF uses
I know, I don't.
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that, I'm not a techie. So,
Because in the past, I thought I always understood it as you have to submit the Microsoft Word through ETS, and that's why it reads tab based as opposed to column based.
yeah, no. They
But
Use the
as
PDF.
a PDF, I mean, if it's an Illustrator PDF versus a, Microsoft Word PDF, how does it pick up the difference? Because most of the time a PDF is PDF.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know from, and here, build it in Word, save as PDF. ATS are less likely to score it.
Okay.
And they get ranked. And they said it, according to, the research that I look at, I don't know the technical side of it. I only know this is what they tell you to best get your candidates in front of the hiring people.
Okay.
So you can use bold, you can use italics, you can use underline, you can use colors, and you can use the bullets. 15 years ago, I couldn't do that. I used to have to have everything. I would create a resume, and then I would have an ATS friendly one. I would undo everything. Left justified, Times New Roman, hard stops. But now we, over the last many years, we can do this. So that's the good news. It's getting better and better, and more companies are investing in it. So that's encouraging. Okay, we actually went through a lot of these already. LinkedIn, these are things you can include in your resume. Your projects, your volunteer work experience, specialized courses, soft skills, hard skills, the apps, the social media platforms, having a technology skills section, your website, and a LinkedIn right there up at the top. No. So content. So I'm sure you all have questions about how to present.
Okay, I'll ask. Chaden mentioned a QR.
Oh, yes, I have. It's not going to preclude you from getting invited, and the tracking software is not going to read that, but yes, that is something that people are starting to do.
All right, so on their, not the ATS one, but on a different one, you can have a.
They can. Yeah, they can.
Oh, they can.
They could, because it won't get read. The visual doesn't get read. Again, that's where that balance of content and format. So you have to make sure you don't do.
It gets in the person's hands. They will be able to QR it quick.
Yes, and that's not something that's going to preclude you from getting. It's not going to kick you out of the system.
Yeah.
A template's going to kick you out of the system. The text boxes will kick you out because it won't get read. So the bottom line is you need that document to get read and get to the human. And so then the human does two things. They go to that resume and they look at it, and then they'll also go to your website if you have that on that resume, and then they look at that. But you more than likely you'll also have put your website URL into the application process, because they always ask you to include that. So, or invite you to include anything else. You see here is important. The logos, graphics, graphs, and other visuals. It doesn't read those, but you can use graphics to illustrate your text, but don't replace it. I may have skipped over that one when we did it. Any other questions that you have about content?
Where should they go to start looking? I never really asked that question. That was a good question. How many of you, Matt, are you looking to stay close by?
Yeah.
Or how many are looking like Frankie? You looking to go back to New York? Are you willing to go back to New York? So Frankie's willing to go anywhere, everywhere. So that being said, where are some of the sites other than Indeed might he be looking?
Well, let's use Frankie as an example. So what are you hoping for when you graduate? What would you like?
Definitely the type of job where I get to work with commercial graphics and stuff like that.
I didn't hear, I'm sorry. What was that,
Uh,
Brad?
He wants to be able to work with commercial graphics.
Okay, so I would go to Indeed, because I use that as research. Indeed is like the Google of job search. So it crawls through the niche sites, and it's always a good start. So I would go up into I wouldn't put anything in the where. Have any of you been on Indeed? It has what and where. So in the what, I would put, what did you say, commercial design?
Commercial graphics. Mhm.
Commercial graphics. I do commercial graphics and I would put it in quotes, because that way it'll only grab jobs that have that exact title in that way. Otherwise, you're going to get every job that has the word commercial and graphics in it. So you want to put that up in quotes, and don't put anything in the where, because you don't care where it is. Okay. Let's see if I can do that. And then that is what's going to
Right, and
help
while
you.
And while you're looking,
Mhm.
from the standpoint of skill set, I try to explain to the students, you don't write everything down right now as a research, because you don't know what might mean what. So for Frankie, you'll like this. Frankie worked at Ralph Lauren, right? At Tanger. For how many years, Frankie?
And 2 years of change.
A little over 2 years.
Okay.
So what were your job duties there?
Everything. No, stop.
What was your title?
My title, it was head brand ambassador. So
What was it, Ray?
Say it louder.
I said head brand ambassador.
Head brain ambassador, they called it.
Brand.
Brand ambassador. I was gonna say head brain. What's that? What's up with that?
Okay. So I would probably be thinking about it with the creative lens. So did you do anything with merchandising?
Yeah.
Did you help merchandise that store? I wouldn't get caught up with opening and, well, I shouldn't say that. So I would not talk about the financial part of it, okay? Because you want to be, unless you need space to take up space. No, but I would first go with the creative portion. So I'd look at merchandising and talk about corporate planograms, something along those lines, and then that you were exposed to a major retail, global retail corporations, merchandising initiatives, something along those lines, because you were exposed to somebody who's on more progressive with their creativity, and that. So here's graphic designer. So if you look, so we're on Indeed here, looked up commercial graphics. See how I put it in quotes? That's very important. And I put nothing in the where. So this is probably not the job title that you want to use. Do you see that? Only 17 jobs across the country came up. But as a resume writer, and I was doing research, I would be mining this for the information. I don't know what a grind artist is. Just for the rest of you also, when you're doing your job search, you see here where it says relevance and date. I don't care when it was published, that posted that job, because I'm looking for information, and that's where you are. If you're on your fact-finding mission, doesn't matter. If you're doing your job search, you want to hit date, because you want the most recent, just posted today, graphic designer. I don't know why this made it up at the top. Accounting, but it must have the term in here somehow. Creative design firm, so that term must be in there. Graphics and pre-press 5 days ago. If something was 30 days old, it's probably, see that posted 30 plus days ago, it's probably already filled. But see that job title, there's got to be a different way to describe that, commercial graphics.
What's your,
Because-
Frankie, what's your idea of commercial graphics?
Um,
In your head, what do you think you'll be doing if you got hired as a commercial graphic artist?
so I'll pretty much be like sitting behind the computer, I'm going to use Adobe Illustrator or like using the Adobe Creative Studio to create graphics.
All right, but for corporate companies, not just for mom and pop.
Yes. for co-
You want to-
He wants to work at Ralph Lauren's corporate office in their
Okay,
department and doing graphics kind of a thing. Not at Marketing Co. doing, Bob's towing service.
Yeah.
I think that's what he means by,
mhm. But there's a company, so I would do Ralph Lauren careers. Any company you are interested, what are their careers? Or even if it's not that company, maybe it's that industry. So, so you want to search, go to search their jobs. I do this all the time. And then select a location. Keywords, graphic design. Oh, typo. But I'm wrong.
websites.
Dogs have been so good. Graphic designer, and it goes by brand. So there you have it. So you might even want to just say, let's see, job type. I'm looking for like entry level. Sometimes they'll have that. This is going to help you if you are all getting ready to kind of take inventory of your skills, and it really is. When I ask people what are the 3 things that they most want an employer to know, I always hear, and no matter where level they're at, I'm hardworking, I'm reliable, I'm motivated. All important, but don't put those on your resume. You can show it on your resume. Don't put those on there. They have to have some meaning behind them. So make sure that if you include them, you've got something down below that shows that it's meaningful. Okay. But
Couple
these,
more. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
so this is, go to that graphic designer, go to the position.
So look up that field and then, so Trent in the chat had a question
Sure.
and it says, are the preset templates in Word usable for ATS? Or are
That's a
you
really
better
good
off doing it from
question.
scratch?
Got to do it from scratch.
Okay.
Got to do it from scratch.
Is there anything in particular that should be mentioned on a resume that might be of note? And to an extent, what is not worth mentioning? So like you just said, hard worker.
Don't put in references upon request.
Yeah, and I think I had told him that as well. Mhm.
Don't put up there. So everybody wants to put an objective. And the objective is important in a way. You got to spin it or turn it around. You got to say, this is who I am and this is what I'm offering you. Instead of, I want to work for a company who's going to give me growth opportunities. They don't care what you want. And people have those meaningless sentences up at the top that just take up space. Where was that college student I was showing you?
Yeah, and while you're looking for that, Ms. Kensley, what was your question?
Do you have, well, I guess you can ask that.
Yeah.
Does she have any other websites that she recommends other than Indeed for jobs?
I like LinkedIn. Oh, the Muse.
For the news?
Look at the Muse. There's
Indeed, LinkedIn, the Muse.
mhm. But remember, they really crawl through them. There's creative.
Another one for us anyway, to look up. Because in this particular town, how many here, other than Cade, is photography driven? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 6 just not even online, because I know there's some online as well. Everything's mom and pop, usually. You know, you own the business and run the business. But like the Grace's friend there, the food photographer, something like that,
Yeah,
they search for.
the kind of the medium, I guess, or how you would
Yeah,
say it, with the subset, the subcategory within that, you would look at that. Always start with what you want. Your ideal.
So Cade, what's your ideal? Sports photography? Cade's is sports photography.
That's great. I just looked that up. Sports.
Oh, yeah, and Aikido as well, yeah.
Yeah. Major League Baseball. Right there. So there's a new mandate that came up in New York,
Jacksonville, there you go.
starting jobs in New York and around that they're starting to take a trend that's starting to take hold across the country. You see how they have the job, the salary there.
Uh-huh.
Any jobs in New York City area are required to put what the job salary is. Then you know. I mean, we used to have to guess of what it would be. And there were ways to figure it out but now they have to tell you. Yep, Jacksonville. And most of you are going to start off as assistants or coordinators. Those are the entry level roles within each one. Weekends only. But what you do is play around with your keywords. Okay. So that's pretty, that is a coordinator role right there. And then this will also tell you what is important if there's something you don't have that you consistently see in the requirements or the preferred qualifications. And then you get that, whether it's a certification or learning a new system or technology, so that you can put that on that resume.
Yeah, become familiar with what might be missing. If you see the same thing offered that you don't have that qualification, that's your tell, right? So you're
That's
like, what is this? Learn more about it, research it, and say, do I need to get this? Obviously.
Yes, and if it's a certification, I just did this for somebody. It's something that she's going to need moving forward. She's at a higher level, but she's in the process. I put that certification on the resume and put in parentheses in process. That way, the tracking software picks it up and pulls it in, and then the potential hiring manager can read through and say, oh, she's got all of this experience and all of this knowledge. She doesn't have this yet, but she's working on it. So they can make the determination. If it was missing from the resume because she didn't have it yet, it may have not made it to the human. It may have just automatically been kicked out. That's where that tracking software matters, and that's where content comes in. And you have to think, you guys are accustomed to thinking outside the box. So really think about this information and do your research. You're spending a lot of time and money, or investing time and money into preparing for your career, getting your resume together, your materials, spending some time really looking through them, printing them out, highlighting. And it's kind of fun because you'll discover companies that you didn't know maybe were in the area or in a certain, close by. And that's what's, I find that exciting. Are there any other questions about, those are some good ones about the content and the Microsoft Word question.
Anybody else here? How about my Zoomers? You guys have any questions? All right. I'm trying to see if I can pull up.
Well, I'm going to show you, we were talking about, somebody asked about what not to put in information wise. Remember I was saying about the objective and we turn it around? This person wanted to be a business analyst. So we're saying this is the good job I'm going for, business analyst. And I'm accustomed to managing large workload, prioritizing multiple responsibilities, and meeting strict deadlines. All important in that type of a role. So it's telling what they have, it's showing what their talents are or their skills, not saying I want to work for a large company who offers me career growth. Let me just see on this. This is an this is an example of again, it's an opportunity to get keywords in there, and you see how its subcategories are in there because it divides that text up, that content, so that somebody can get through it quickly. Here are my strengths and skills. Here's my specialized coursework, the technology, and then some volunteer work. If you have the space, and it could be something that connects with that reader. You don't know.
So I think, we've still got a little bit of time left.
Uh-huh.
Other than the moving forward, we've got the resume and we made it through our ATS. Somebody wants to interview us. I've told my students in the past, I don't know if I mentioned it to you all out there, the first time going back to 1991, dating myself here. I sat in the apartment with that probably 30-pound camcorder where my sister actually interviewed me as a mock interview and would ask me those questions. So what I'm getting at is the practice part. You're able to see the little quirks and
Nuances of your, yeah. So luckily,
practice.
technology has also improved greatly. Go on LinkedIn. When you're ready to do your job search, go to LinkedIn, build your profile. They have a learning module, and they have interview prep, and they have all kinds of different interview videos, and listen to them, watch them. That's your homework, getting ready. The other thing is always, if say you have an interview, read your resume the night before your interview, and then the morning before, because again, when I say everything on that resume is fair game, that resume is serving now to structure the interview. So they're going to ask you questions based on it, and that's where it goes back to those stories. Think about the stories. Where was my McDonald's? I have it in front. A lot of you could be, let's see, what was that? Work in fast food. Here's a way to describe that. And it shows, instead of going,
You were at McDonald's, right? Okay.
it could be anywhere, Filet, whatever it may be. But you see how this is described. So this person worked throughout high school, and then he worked throughout college. Once he graduated from high school, I know who this is, and I know he graduated in 2010. So all through high school, and then when he got out of college, or when he was in college rather, he worked as well, and they promoted him to crew trainer. So worked throughout high school and college, gaining hands-on experience in daily business operations. He had his MBA. He had just graduated with his MBA, went through and got his bachelor's in business and then his master's in business. So he was, doing his job search. Show about his training new employees, what his focus was, and building their best practices. And then partnering with other crew and managers to meet target goals during the shift. And then showing about his appraisals, his consistently recognized for reliability. See, that's where we're incorporating those words, where in a more meaningful way: reliability, initiative, professionalism, service excellence, and leadership. All important. And again, those are the soft skills, but getting them in there and showing them through proof, not just saying it. And you notice these are business focused bullets, whereas was it Frankie that was at Ralph Lauren?
Mhm.
Where we would look at the creative parts of that job.
Yes. Merch, you have a question.
What if you were never employed?
What if you were never employed?
Then we would talk about your projects in school. So we would have a section that said projects. And
How about extracurricular,
yeah, well, certainly if you have that.
or
Mhm.
church, if you know, you volunteer work, that kind of stuff?
Yes. Yes, you can put those things down, but again, make sure that they're relevant. And showing leadership, initiative, those kinds of things. Here's a person who didn't work. We talked about his, the projects that he did. He was another business grad. And we looked at, so if you notice, there's more keywords there: promotions management, marketing, investments, operations management, strategic man. Always trying to pepper that resume with keywords to grab, for the ATS to grab it. And then the human can read through it and just make the decision.
Okay. How about non-traditional? We are changing careers kind of a thing.
Yeah, so we would show, it depends how much of a shift it is, but we would put the resume, the education up at the top. Typically when you have are an experienced worker, the education goes to the bottom. So say you're non-traditional, you're shifting gears. So the education goes to the top, is like a new grad, to show that it's current, the current education. So then, you know, especially in a creative. So because they want to know, that they have the most current technology.
Mhm.
So that's where your date of your education would be included. Somebody like me and somebody like you, Brian, our date of graduation is gone from that resume. We don't want them to know when we graduated. So non-traditional, you would put that date up at the top to show that it's a current grad. And then you do include your employment down below. But again, always be looking at it with the lens of that next job. Only include that. This is a good thing also to include, is for everybody, showing, instead of the responsibilities, what are the achievements within that. And we go back to that McDonald's resume. You notice we didn't talk about serving customers. We didn't talk about cleaning the tables. We didn't talk about the opening and closing in this. We talked about the achievements within that role, and that's what's important.
Okay, so back on interview. I've always been told that if you see a job and you're like, well, I don't know if I really, and this is just starting out, graduating, and you're just starting your search, and you see a job and you're like, I don't know if I want that job or not, but they called me in for an interview. My rule of thumb is it's good practice.
Yeah,
You should always take the interview.
I always tell people to apply for jobs you don't want initially, so you can practice your interviewing skills.
Because you can always, if you somehow like get the opportunity and they're like, well, we want to offer you the position, you're like, oh, well, I appreciate your time.
Well, they're not gonna, if they offer you the position on the spot, then you're gonna.
Well, not on the spot, but yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so know that, always apply for those roles, just to practice, because you don't want that job you really want to be your first interview. Because you gotta practice your elevator speech and that tell me about yourself. So definitely do that. And remember, with any interview, you just don't sit there with hoping that they like you, and go there with, I hope I like them. I hope this is the place for me, because this is important in your own career, and you want to make sure that it's a good fit for yourself. Now, remember, that first job is most likely going to drive your career, and you don't want it to change your trajectory. So That's why I always say go with what you really want initially. Look at that, explore that. But make sure that when you're ready to do your job search, that your job is to get a job and you remember that. Too many people kind of try to, spend a little time and then give up. And you have to be persistent and just plow through. It's not fun. It's uncomfortable, but you keep going and keep putting them in there and have a goal for yourself. I'm going to apply to 10 jobs this week.
And one key word that I picked up out of this is Kristen keeps saying your first job. Your first job isn't necessarily, I don't know what the percentages are, but your first job isn't your only job. I would say, I know one of the gentlemen I graduated with, that's true, but many of the others, that was not. That's stepping stone, right? You use that job, it's your first job, you get all the experience you can, and then you're always trying to advance.
Well, and you see know where you want to be, and if that company is not providing that, and then to move on. You look outside, you start doing your search,
Mhm.
and see what else is out there.
Ms. Van,
If you were ever self-employed and now you're going back into the work industry.
Then yeah. So again, look at it as, you're the employer. You have a couple different levels of responsibilities, not only, the operational part of that job, but the fiduciary part. So you're managing the financials of that. You look at as an employee, you now have the perspective of an employer. They like that too, because you're looking at things with the bottom line. I mean, Brian, I'm sure sees things from return on investment all the time. Knowing what labor costs are, tax implications, all of those things that just employees don't think about because they're not responsible for that. So having that perspective of being a business owner is also something that you'd want to leverage. That's where your summary, that you incorporate those kind of words in the summary.
all right. Anybody on Zoom? I don't see any hands up or anything. A lot of people are putting their questions in the chat. No? All right, how about out here? Oh, yes, Ebony.
Job out of state, if you get accepted, should you wait until you live there for an interview, or like, what do you say about that?
Could you understand her?
I can't hear you.
A little louder.
Like, when you're applying for a job out of state and you get accepted for an interview, what do you do if you don't live in that state yet?
That's a good question too. So it's common now. Thanks to the pandemic, some things they expect that now. There's more remote positions available, which is fantastic. Another trend that's been going on for many years is that you don't put your mailing address on the resume. You only put your cell number and your email. So back in the day, they didn't take it as seriously if somebody was out of state and were applying. But that's different now. So typically they'll do a Zoom. Everybody's accustomed to that now in the business world. So know that if you do get granted the interview and you're out, they'll know you're out of state probably by your current role. If you put the city on there, then you have to let them know you need to be considered a serious candidate, that you have plans in place to move. You are relocating. And a lot of times I'll put up at the top of the resume, relocating to San Francisco, right under the name, for that reason, so that they know that person is, it's not, I'm going to move if I get the job. It's, I'm moving there, I need a job. That's what you need to convey.
Okay, Matt had a question.
Just basically what she was asking, what about there's options to work remotely, right?
Oh, yeah. And if you go on Indeed, there's actually a new tab that says remote,
Okay.
which 2 years ago didn't exist.
Good questions.
Yeah, very good questions.
All right. Anybody else? How about jobs you're working now that might be worded in a way, right? Like Perry, you're at Lowe's. You know, how do you word that? Perry's also, you know, and I don't know if this belongs on an interview or a resume or not, but you do a lot of the stuff with the cooking, you know, your cook-offs and those types of tournament type things.
Within Lowe's or?
No, like two different things.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
does that go under a hobby section? Does that go under, you know,
there's no hobby section.
nothing anymore?
But no. But if it's something that, say, physical protection. I work with a lot of people in law enforcement, and they retire and then they go into executive protection. If they are marathon runners, scuba teacher, you know, whatever it may be, those I would put on there because it shows physical strength and endurance. And within executive protection, you'd want that.
Mhm.
So again, that's where it goes back to whatever your goal is, everything you think about that, about everything and decisioning on what to include. Again, a lot of these are new grads, so you have room. You're gonna have room on that document to include things. Make sure that they've written with Lowe's. Again, you can do merchandising with that, and depending on what department it is. If you're working in the paint department, then you have a real good sense of color. You know, and helping people choose those. You know, being diplomatic.
Well, that would go with anything in Lowe's with the tile, the carpet, the you know,
Yeah.
your sense of color and how you can match things and
Yeah.
you know, because I'm sure you get asked that all the time, Perry, right? What do you think? Right? They say,
Right.
well, how about this? What do you think? And you can use your knowledge that you've learned
Yeah.
in this classroom setting
Yeah.
and put it to use. And that stuff can go on your resume. Yes, Matt.
Well, basically, another similar question, but like, how could you make something like, say somebody works at Walmart or something, how could you word it in a way that makes it sound good, you know, on the resume?
Well,
Right.
again, you can. There's ways to do so. It
You can
depends.
pull the McDonald's one up again, maybe, and
Yeah, and what's the goal? Like, what are you doing? What are you looking for that, your role? Is it creative? Is it creative design of some sort?
Yeah, any design, whether it's for commercial graphic, you know, graphic design or video photography, or
Yeah.
anything like that.
And what do you do at Walmart?
What's that?
And what is the role at Walmart, the experience?
I think how can you make the Walmart sound more elaborate? You just
Right,
say,
right.
"Okay, Walmart."
Like a service, like customer service?
Well,
yeah. So if he does customer service, he's asking like your McDonald's one. How do you like people tend to say, oh, you work at Walmart? That's a common
First thing I would
how do
do,
you stand out, but you're looking for achievements.
I would ask, if you were my client, I would ask to see what your performance appraisals. I would look at the last 3 years, only with the manager.
Okay.
Right, so because again, it goes back to people are kinder to you than you are to yourself. So you look at those manager comments and see, and hopefully it's not a lazy manager, because some of them just, you know, copy and paste everything. But if it's, you look for their wording of who you are as an employee. And I ask, sorry. That's what I ask. Who are you as an employee? What do your supervisors consistently say about you? What do your colleagues consistently say about you? So that's where you look at terms like collaboration. So maybe we can't glean the creative piece from that unless you're doing some merchandising, planogram. And you might be doing planogram implementation. And again, so you have a major global corporation and you are exposed to their best practices. And they probably provide training for you also. So I would be leveraging that customer service, dealing with different personalities, having that understanding.
In Matt's case, you did your internship at
Yeah,
Medieval Times, right? And it was photography.
Uh-huh,
So I don't know if you had an exit interview, but you certainly had a survey
yeah,
that was filled out and handed in.
Right.
I believe so.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
you-
also, yeah, if any
you got that.
customers ever recognized you, so
Mhm.
those kind of things. Yep. Proof, that's what they want.
I get in touch with Medieval Times in case, I. did
Well-
the-
I have that paperwork.
Okay,
Okay. So we would have that paperwork.
all right.
I have to look for it, but I know I have it. All right, well, I think we're good. Anybody else have any other questions? I don't see any online. All right. Thank you, Mr. Oh, Ethan, did you raise your hand or you're just looking at your watch? All right,
All right,
everybody, let's give Miss Kristen our thanks. Don't we like that?
bye, thank you. All
All right, appreciate you.
right, bye, thanks, bye-bye.
All right, everybody on Zoom, you can log out. I have already marked you present, so you're good to go. And virtual handshakes, you know how I am. Enjoy your spring break.
All right, see ya.
All right, see you, Jack.
I was like, we saved this day for another day.
So Professor Monroe, pretty much, the way to build this, resume